All right, so we'll share. We'll have about 2 people share what they discussed in their pair, an opportunity for advancing gender equity. Anyone who's ready, you can unmute.
One opportunity, I think, for advancing gender equity would be just promoting the status of women and girls through educational opportunities and through economic opportunities, more so. We have to start with education so that she's prepared. And in terms of just cultural views, where she is considered to be equal with men in her contributions to society. And we don't tend to see that across the board, that almost immediately, if you're born as a female, then you are perceived not to be as good as our male counterparts. And that mindset needs to change.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. I think with that, being cognizant of time, we'll proceed. Let's keep sharing in the chat what we discussed in our Think Pair. Zivo, next slide. Now we'll move to the introduction of our main speakers today. So first, we have Annika Dorothy Jen. She is the East Africa Program Coordinator for Amplify Girls, whose mission is to amplify the voices, work, and collaborative impact of local organizations focused on the power and potential of adolescent girls. Karibu sana, Annika. Next slide.
Thank you very much.
Karibu. Next, we have Eric Mungai, who is the founder and executive director at Tiazua Africa, whose mission is to mentor and raise young male leaders for the African continent. Most welcome, Eric. Next, we have Roslyn Mukabana, who heads the Gender-Based Violence Unit in the Health Directorate of Nairobi Metropolitan Services. One of the prime programs at Nairobi Metropolitan Services is Adolescent Health. We feel so honored, Mukabana, most welcome. We have you as government here. And Roslyn's mantra is silence perpetuates violence, speak out. Feel most welcome, Roslyn.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lydia Mazzioli, who is Program Manager Freedom in Hope, whose mission is equipping survivors and advocates to lead in ending the cycle of sexual violence. Karibu sana, Lydia. And finally, we have Jeremiah Kutanya, who is a founder and executive director at Pastoralists Integrated Concerns, or PICO, a chemist who abandoned his profession to pursue his interest and passion to advocate for the girls and access of education of the pastoralist Maasai girls in his community. Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for making time to be with us. And so we'll proceed to our speakers today. And the first speaker will be Annika Dorothy from Amplify Girls. Welcome, Dorothy.
Thank you very much, Deborah. As Deborah has said, we're a collective of community-driven organizations in East Africa, whose mission is to develop and support community-driven organizations and amplify their voices, their work, and their impact through collective action and intentional collaboration. And so today I'm going to present about the agency tool, a tool that we have used to support girls and to bring out their potential. we recognize that community-driven organizations need good data to document their successes and understand their challenges. And the most important outcomes of CDO work are embodied by their deep personal transformation. So we are looking at measuring personal transformation that is notoriously difficult even for large organizations. And so as you see on the screen, who is this survey for? So the survey is a measure of agency, and it is established specifically for adolescent girls who are aged between 13 and 25, and who are living in both rural and urban areas of Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania. So you may ask, maybe, why urgency? Why did we think about measuring urgency? We believe that in order to be successful, girls must believe in themselves, and must also believe in their own ability and have the skills they need to affect change in their own lives. So we're looking at all these interventions we have in SRHR, GBV, you know. If a girl does not believe in her own capacity, in her skills, then you know, even the scholarships we give may not amount to much. So it is important that we measure this. Oh, okay. I just saw a notification. So we believe that the survey must be valid for the following groups: children, youth who are younger than 13 or older than 25. We also believe it can be measured for boys. So we get that question a lot. So what does it measure exactly? There are 4 things which we believe make up agency. And just to give you a brief background, is that we have been measuring agency as a research tool in Amplify for a while now. Of course, we started in 2019, but were halted a little bit by Corona, but we've been able to adapt thus far. So these are the 4 things we believe make up agency: self-belief, environmental beliefs, self-governance skills, and leadership skills. So how long does it take? How long is this survey, and how long does it take? The survey itself is 3 pages long. It has 60 questions, which are multiple choice. It roughly takes 30 to 45 minutes to administer the survey. And this survey is reported by the organization itself. So you can self-administer and self-report. Next slide. So in a snapshot, an overview, this is how the survey looks like. These are some of the sample questions. You know, for example, on the whole, am I satisfied with myself? And there are those specific answers: strongly agree, neither, disagree, and so forth. Moving forward, we looked at defining agency. And we did this together with our community-driven organizations. And we did this through a rigorous process with organizations across 4 countries from the communities. And this is what we started with: positive self-belief, skills equal agency. So we believe that girls must believe in their own ability to reflect change or to affect change, and that girls must also have the skills they require in order to make the change. And this leads to what now we call agency. But this definition has evolved over time. Moving on to the next slide, you'll see that after a lot of back and forth and research, this is what, sorry, I need to, I have an extra guest and I need to release him from this meeting. So 1 minute. Thank you. So our definition ended up being what you see on your screen: positive self-beliefs, environmental beliefs, leadership skills, governance skills, all this amounting to agency. And so this was a process that we went through with our partners to really define what qualifies as agency. What factors must we look at? Next slide, please. So how do we use this agency, and how can you be part of it as well if you want to use it? These are some of the designs and timelines we came up with. This survey is meant to be administered as a pre and post test. That is at the baseline and at the end line. So if you're starting a project, that would be your baseline where you begin, and at the end of the project, that is where you'll end, and you will administer the survey again, and then we'll be able to analyze the results. So this survey is, the design is longitudinal, meaning it is meant to track participants at multiple points as well. So if your program length is 1 year or less, then you can at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. If it is 2 years or more, then you can have a midline point, as shown in the next slide. This is what an end year, 1 year survey looks like, and a 2 year survey looks like. So we can have a midline at the end of the first year, beginning of second year, where you redo the survey just to ensure that you're able to monitor, and then have it again at the end of the second year. Next slide, please. So how can you use this survey? What are the do's and don'ts? And how can you reach Amplify to be able to participate? So all that we ask is that you share data. Once you administer the survey, we will need to track your results. We will need to itemize the data that you've collected that contributes to the overall results of this research. So the data that you share will be anonymized, and we will continue to learn from the new populations and improve the survey. The next thing is that please do not change the survey. It is important that the survey is kept in its original form, except for like demographic spaces. And if you want to use the survey in part, you can talk to us and we can customize the survey for you. We kindly request that you give us feedback on what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And it is well understood that you know what your partners want or what your girls need. So it will be really important for us to get your feedback. And lastly, please credit Amplify for the work. It's very important that this work has the right credit. It was developed in conjunction with our lead researcher in Amplify called Aubryn Siddle. So it is actually named the Amplify Siddle Agency Tool. And so it's very important to acknowledge its source. Lastly, in the next slide, you'll see that we will provide a PDF agency survey and Microsoft form links for the survey that can be done online. We'll also create a master key template where you can track who has filled what, and we have ways of ensuring that only you have the master key. In addition, we will have a concept script where the girls can fill, so you don't have to develop any data. And we'll have a data entry link so that you can put in your raw data. And we can give you a copy of this training presentation so that you're able to track and also provide a more detailed analysis of everything entailing the agency research. So that is the agency survey, and that is the agency tool. And we hope that you can get in touch with us. I will put our address in the chat, and I'm sure Deborah and Rebecca will share the information as well, so that you can be able to ensure that you can measure the impact of your programs towards girls. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Anika, on the extensive presentation you've made on the importance of research. And I liked your definition of agency. Thank you so much. And our next speaker is Eric Mungai from Yazua, Africa. Karibu.
Happy and glad to be here. Yazua Africa is an organization that works with young men exclusively on leadership development and personal development and positive masculinity. We focus on raising positive and transformative male leaders in society. And we do this through our leadership models that focus on developing young men and preparing them for positions of influence. Why influence, you may ask? Because we believe that the way young men engage with gender has a direct impact on the freedoms of the girl child. We do this through experiential programs, project-based learning, connecting with communities, mentorship from other males, and outdoor adventure camps and excursions. We are strong on the belief that young men are everything they do. Their entire life is a sum total of the decisions that they've made and that they continue to make. Yet we forget to create clear pathways in our communities of thought and engagement to help nurture and create healthy engagements around especially gender and how we connect with them, how we work with them, who they are, and what role they ought to play in society, which wouldn't happen if we are not thinking, learning, and changing and becoming better as at both individual levels, but also as a society. We are stuck, and we continue to be stuck at a place where the way we engage with community, the way we engage with the men, and the way we define men is stuck at the Stone Age. We still have the idea and the ideals that men are these savages who go out to engage and attack other savages. And that's how come, even though the man seems to be suave and well put together, the modern man is still socialized. His collective socialization is left to his own devices, hoping that he'll figure things out by themselves. We have the ideal, and we push this ideal among boys that, be smooth, be as suave as James Bond, and also be angry, be rough, be tough. Well, alive to the modern realities, what we effectively done is leave our young men to the old standards of masculinity, doused with dangerous ideals on masculinity and gender relations. And really, that's a match ready for explosion. And that's the kind prevailing masculinity model is he's tough, he ought to be courageous, he's wealthy, and then that brings credence to our problems with corruption, because it's wealth at whatever cost. He's sophisticated, he's aggressive, he's strong, he doesn't need anyone's help, he's domineering, he gets angry very fast, he has a short temper. And this is one of the ones that people love, is that he's very smooth with women. The way he dresses, the items, things he owns, he has things that he owns, and everything around him is a property to be owned, and also tends to demonstrate power control. And we know, and through our interactions with both the female gender and especially in our communities and in our schools, that the decisions and values that form the bedrock upon which life aspirations, the goals and dreams are built must be both positive, strong, and healthy for society. We do that for the girl child, but we fail to do the same for the boy child, to begin to lay the right foundation, to begin to help him begin to see his place, his positive role and place in society, to stop him from seeing himself as a threat and a perpetrator in society. And the I Decide model, which we use in our interactions, allows for that. For boys to build, but to also define their own masculinity. Having a strong growth mindset, a willingness to welcome change, because their foundational identity isn't bound by time, culture, or tradition, breaking away from the Stone Age man and beginning to shift the way we define masculinity towards values that cross time and traditions and cultures. The boy today is completely uncertain about his male identity, and we believe that the greatest threat to our community's development is its lost, confused, angry, and bitter young men. It's a spark in a already volatile situation. If we fail to engage young men and to help them see their place in society positively and full of aspiration and hope, what happens is that they begin to see the female gender as the threat. They begin to see the female gender as a person that is taking their places and their positions, and the person that wants to pull down. And we believe that to positively engage with them and have them make a world of difference in our communities and on gender matters, we ought to first begin by helping them define themselves. And that definition is that he is defined by the values he upholds. And the three key ones that we strongly advocate for is service to others, personal leadership, and responsibility to community. So how do you ensure a more equitable and just society on gender issues? Beginning by helping young men make smart decisions. Help them make smart decisions using the I decide model, which stands for his identity, his discipline, his excellence, character and creativity, insight and integrity, service, drive and determination, and empathy. By collaborating and partnering and actively seeking out ways to mentor, guide, and equip young men in society on gender issues and relations, rather, we will transform our world and communities. We must empower both wings of the bird that gives our world flight. They are the carabiner of society, safely and quickly connecting different components of the critical systems that make up our society's social structures. That small thing that would make all the difference. What does he think about himself? What does he believe about himself? Does he feel secure? Is he sure about his identity? Is his identity positive? That carabiner. And Abdul Baha says, and I'll finish with this quote, that the world of humanity is possessed of two wings, the male and the female. So long as these two wings are not equivalent in strength, the bird will not fly. So join us and allow us to engage on a platform where the world flies, the world soars, and our communities thrive through that. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to more engagement with everyone here today.
Thank you so much, Eric. That was powerful, and we end it at that quote. I'm glad you're not part of the cliche, boys have been forgotten. At least you're there doing something for them. Thank you so much. On to our next presenter, a panelist today, Roslyn Mukabana from Government, Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Welcome.
Wow, thank you. Talking after Yazua, I feel grateful that he has brought up the issue of the boy child very well, to the point that I'm feeling like I am coming to start telling him we needed to do this with the girl, but you have said it all. Thank you so much. That was perfect. So adolescent health within the Nairobi County Metropolitan Services is a unit that is under the reproductive health component. And as you are aware, the health sector is anchored within the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, where we have several programs, as you can see, reproductive health being the mother unit, and then the GBV unit, which I head, and then we also have the child health, adolescent, HIV/AIDS, and mental health. All these are programs that are designed to ensure that girls and women and young women are holistically covered in terms of matters of SRHR. Well, that's just the map for Nairobi and showing where we are and looking at how we are bordered with other counties. But that doesn't mean that that's the use of the word metropolitan to bring out that we also still serve other counties within the region of Nairobi. So these are some of the program goals. Remember, I'm coming from a background of health where we are part of some of the issues that our young girls are undergoing is new HIV infections. And so part of our package is to ensure we give them a comprehensive package for adolescent young persons and ensure also that we reduce unintended pregnancies among them and the youth in Nairobi, and to ensure that we are also accelerating the response and prevention of sexual and gender-based violence and mental health services among the adolescents and young persons. We have also come up with ensuring that we increase uptake of adolescent sexual and reproductive health rights directly from the adolescents and the young persons. One thing that we noticed is that the adolescents, when they come to our facilities, if they get a healthcare worker looking like me with my white hair, it brings a challenge because then they're not able to open up and say they have actually come for baby contraception. So we are trying to see how best, not even trying, we have actually come up with a model of ensuring that they are able to get these services even down in the community. Those are our girls. I decided to bring this slide so that you can see where we are at in terms of our data as far as the adolescents who are presenting with pregnancy within the first antenatal care visit. This is one of our tools that we use. Way back from 2017, you can look at the data that we have. up to 2020, that is last year, where it was expected that we had very high numbers of young girls who had undergone, have had issues to do with pregnancy. And for me, when it comes to, if it is an adolescent who is under 17, I want you to look at this chart in a different way, in the sense that if it's an adolescent coming, that means looking at our Sexual Offences Act and our Children's Act, this is as a result of defilement. So we look at those data and let's look at them. Let's just think about it. Look at our adolescents who are receiving family planning. And again, using the word family planning should actually is wrong. We should have just used receiving contraception, because what families are these that we want our adolescents to plan, our young girls? These are not there, the families are not there. Yet, much as we want to really blanket ourselves and assume that our adolescents, our young girls are not having sex, look at the 10 to 14 years. From 434 October to December, we rose up to a number to 9,264. And also just looking at our October to December data, 15 to 19 that were getting those services of contraception. So part of why we have been able to try and bring the young girls and adolescents to ensuring that they have health rights and also accessing our services, because one of the objectives of the NMS Health is to ensure that you are able to access health services affordable and within your means. We've gone ahead and had distribution of commodities. Mostly last year, we had contraceptives, we distributed condoms, and we were also able to distribute sanitary pads. Remember, most of the sanitary pads are distributed in schools. Throughout the whole of last year, you remember with the lockdown, most of our young girls and children, adolescents were at home, and provision of sanitary pads was also a challenge. And we also had to ensure that other than even providing sanitary pads, where are they going to dispose them of? And it was even surprising to find someone saying that for us, giving us sanitary pads is not a problem. However, my mother needs to pay for that toilet where I will need to go and dispose of that. So then we shifted the focus and looked at the safety of this girl while still going to deposit the sanitary pads. And we had actually to come up and look at how else can we also get abolition blocks that can be able to provide without them being charged for using the same. Because once the girls go to school, then the toilets are free. But when they were at home, the mother didn't have a budget or the father didn't have a budget for the use of toilets. But during the lockdown, this was something that we had not envisioned, that for every one child that you have in that household, you'll have to be charged 10 bob for someone to use the abolition block. That's the need for us to be able to work together with communities that were able to provide those services. We were also able to integrate prep for adolescent girls and young women in family planning services. This actually came about as we had done a survey and discovered that most of our girls are actually engaging in sexual debut at a very young age. But then because they are not using family planning, then it meant that we have to give them pre-exposure prophylaxis to be able to use. It is a program that is in progress, albeit not very well understood, because no young girl wants to continue, because it means that for every sexual encounter you go, then you have to use pre-exposure prophylaxis. And then we also had targeted AYSRH outreaches and inreaches within our facilities. We have had several community dialogues to address issues of teenage pregnancy, to the point of we had a committee that was being chaired by the county commissioner, where most of the organizations that were dealing with the children's, from the children's department to probation to us, just sat down and came up. And this prompted us to actually come up with an adolescent sexual and reproductive health framework 2020 to 2023, which we can actually be able to share. And then we have provided a lot of psychosocial support for adolescents living with HIV and teen mothers. However, one thing I need to also bring out, yes, that the issue of adolescents living with HIV, just as Yazua talked about ensuring that the boys are part and parcel of what we do, we realized that as we provide this, we were leaving out the boys, and yet we have teen fathers. And this has also given us an impetus to be able to start programs that are actually aligned to working with the teen fathers, who we notice are undergoing a lot of psychosocial, because they are expected to ensure that their family, in quotes, is getting enough support, yet at the same time, he's still a young man. He's still an adolescent, also the Romeos and Juliets that we have, and he still needed to support. So this has also prompted us to be able to think about that. And then formation of peer support groups for teen mothers as well as teen fathers. And then looking at high rates of how we can be able to ensure that those of the adolescents who are living with HIV are also best placed to be able to continue getting the regimens, and also so that we can be able to attain viral suppression. Part of the reason I thought this was vital for us is because when we are talking about the girl and the adolescent young women, we sort of tend not to remember that majority of them are actually affected by HIV and AIDS. That's the issue of having child-headed households, and living with HIV itself is a traumatizing effect that causes them, due to adherence issues, not to be able to even complete school. And we try to link this so that as we support them to get virally suppressed, then they can be able to continue staying in school and reducing the time factor that is needed for them to go and collect their drugs in our health facilities. Now, just go back to the slide for the photograph. These are the community initiatives on violence against children and young girls. We actually, through the president's directive, during the lockdown, we thought it best for us to engage the young age of girls and just get it from them, what it is that they understand about growing up and what are some of the challenges that they face from their voices and their stories, for us to be able to get to programming for them. Nothing without us, nothing for us without us. So it was very important for us to do this. And we used our community health volunteers, and also we used our mentors that we have through the youth adolescent programs that we have within our county. We actually have a youth advisory council where they sit in our facilities to be able to support us in making decisions for the young person instead of us always making decisions for them. They are also involved in running our health facilities and allowing them that they can be able to just come up and say, yes, facility A is not very friendly. This is what needs to be done, so that when a young girl goes there, and this has given us a lot of positive feedback, that we have also been able to actually strengthen our facility uptake on adolescent and youth-friendly services. Next. Again, these are our challenges: the high teenage pregnancies, the low viral suppression among adolescents, causing a lot of adherence and stigma, very, very high within the community. And then we also have a very low uptake of reproductive health services among the adolescents, as I had said earlier. It is one of our Major General's work plan that has to work, that all the adolescents within the Nairobi County are able to access services within the facilities without having to undergo a lot of stigma. Peer influence causing poor adherence. Why are you still taking your drugs? I stopped taking my ARVs. I am taking conventional medicines, and then I'm doing well. And then we noticed that in some of our health facilities too, we do not have services that are integrated. And such as I'm talking now, we are trying to ensure that the youth-friendly services are also the GBV integrated services, so that when an adolescent comes and we are able to do a bit of screening depending on the history given, that any other service that is the issues to do with gender-based violence, the services will be given within one room. And if it's anything, even if we need to have to call the issues on legal access to justice, we can be able to try and ensure that we call them within that same room. So we have such facilities that we have right now in Nairobi NMS. We are having about 24 facilities that are providing these integrated services. So these are some of our recommendations. We look at what we are going to do to support in terms of the drugs that they are using, provide adequate literacy to our caregivers of adolescent young girls who are living with HIV and are undergoing any form of violence. So now we are also working with the caregivers and parenting and impacting parenting skills to caregivers of children who have living with HIV, have undergone sexual violence, and are also teenage parents. We also have peer-led pediatric and adolescent support groups We have also ensured that issues of adherence, we are supporting medical support supervisions and ensuring that our people can also be able to be in our county technical working groups, and also just to make sure that even our children who are living with TB are also being taken care of. I know I have talked about this, but let us strengthen our parenting and teen communications, develop programs that are targeted specifics to our teenagers to cope with the challenges faced during relationships, and to be able to avoid unwanted pregnancies. And even when it comes to issues to do with postnatal care, we should be able to see how well we are ensuring that they're getting these services. And then behavior change through life skills, and we have a school health program that does that. I've talked about the issue of caregivers, looking also at culturally appropriate school-based and out-of-school health education, working with the religious faith community initiatives and religious-based organizations, male champion programs to support issues of even teenage pregnancy and bring them on board. And then, of course, the issue of integrating mental health and psychosocial for adolescents within schools, and linking schools to our health facilities for this continuity, and ensure that the school health program also ensures that the girls and the young girls are able to still stay in school. Finally, this is when we were providing them with dignity kits last year. These are some of the survivors and teenage mothers. Next. And these are our toll-free lines. We have the Child Line 116, the GBV National Helpline 1195, the Nairobi County SMS platform 21094, the Mental Health 1199, Adolescent Hotline 1190, supported by LVCT. But what I want to say about this, I know we have most partners who also have their hotlines. My take is we have these hotlines. They are also safe spaces and virtual support for our adolescents. However, let's ensure that they're being guided and that a structure can come in place whereby we can be able to monitor these child helplines to ensure that survivors of sexual violence among the young girls are able to be supported without breaking their confidentiality and providing proper referral and access to legal justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rosalind, and thank you too for the work that you do at Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Next presenter and panelist, Lydia Mattioli from Freely in Hope.
Thanks, Debbie. Hello, everyone. I am so grateful to be in this space and to listen to everything that everyone is doing. It truly takes a village. So I am Lydia Mattioli. I serve as the program manager for Freely in Hope Kenya. And Freely in Hope is a non-profit organization that equips survivors and advocates to lead in ending the cycle of sexual violence, and that is in Kenya and in Zambia. And today I will be sharing with you our program model, which was inspired and created by survivors. And this is basically how we support girls in our program to actualize their academic dreams and thrive in all aspects of their lives. So our program model has 3 approaches that work concurrently. And number 1, as you can see on the diagram, is the holistic education approach. And this is whereby we nurture the academic, spiritual, social, emotional, and economic growth of all our program participants. This is like the backbone of our program. It's the core. It's where it all begins. And then the next approach is leadership development. We believe a movement of empowered and equipped leaders can end the cycle of sexual violence. We therefore nurture and grow leadership of survivors and other allies. And how we do this is through leadership trainings and educational resources. Because well, most of the girls in our program, when they come into our program, they talk about wanting to be lawyers so that they can change systems that perpetuate sexual violence. They talk about wanting to get into the health system so that they can provide better services. And we want to make sure that we tap into that passion and help them become these women that they want to become. And then the last component is the storytelling platforms. And this is whereby we support all survivors and advocates to leverage the art of storytelling to cultivate both personal and collective healing. And this mostly happens through our community outreach platforms that are so many. And so I'll be sharing today, I'll focus on the holistic education component. The two approaches I have expounded on them on the resource that we'll be sharing with you. And in our experience working with survivors, we realize that poverty is one of the main factors that determines whether a girl can access and complete her education. And at Freely in Hope, we believe that access to quality and holistic education has the potential to prevent sexual abuse, re-abuse, and all the vulnerabilities that come with poverty. And so our holistic approach supports survivors of sexual violence beyond just the traditional education. We believe that for a survivor to thrive academically, tuition fees ain't enough, you know. She needs a community that supports her physical, psychological, and spiritual needs. And that is what our holistic package entails. Other than just providing tuition fees, we make sure that our girls have access to a counselor who provides trauma-informed counseling to help them with their healing journey. We pair the girls in our programs with mentors who help them walk the career path and just discover who they are and who they want to be. We make sure that girls in our program are living in safe spaces, especially if the abuse is happening in the home where they're coming from. We work with partners and homes to make sure that they're living well. We take care of their healthcare. We want to make sure that they are well health-wise, and so we have medical covers for all scholars in our programs. We work with partners to provide legal aid so that we can pursue justice for those cases that are still in court. And most importantly, we provide a community of belonging for girls in our program. We go away sometime to a different place, move them from the environment that they're used to. And in this space, we dream of a world free of sexual violence. We share our vision of this world and what we can do to make a difference. And so this is basically what we provide in our holistic approach. And in my experience, most organizations that support girls' education only focus on paying tuition fees, and they forget all the connecting aspects that encompass a whole being. And so at Freely in Hope, next slide, please, Vivo. And so at Freely in Hope, we take into consideration all the other factors that a scholar needs to thrive and create an enabling environment for them to presently tap into all the riches of education. And I shared here a quote from one of the girls in our program. Next slide, please. And she shared, through the scholarship, leadership development, and mentoring programs, Freely in Hope opened up my worldview and capacity to dream. Because growing up, I was willing to settle for the bare minimum because my priority was to survive. But I have realized that I am capable of reaching greater ambitions. You see, so when we put all these components together, we enlarge the worldview of girls in our program, and it helps them to dream beyond the limitations of their surrounding. And through our model, we've realized that there is a direct correlation between the all-round well-being of scholars and their performance at school. Next slide, please. So we've collected data showing the grades of scholars before going through our holistic education model and afterwards, and trust me, the result is mind-blowing. Before girls come into a program, most of them are usually scoring Ds. 53% score Ds. We have 42% scoring Cs, 5% scoring Bs, and no As completely. But then after going through this holistic approach and after we provide all these elements that encompass them growing into becoming this whole being, we end up getting 26% of our girls having A's. We end up having 58% scoring B's and 16% scoring C's. And as you can see, no D's, no E's. And if you look around, for most of the scholarship programs that we have in our country, through my experience, When you come in, what's the first thing that they ask you? Like, what's the grade that you scored? Whether it's a high school scholarship, whether it's one for primary. So we pay attention to the scores and forget that there are so many factors that will determine how a student performs. And for us, we've realized that taking this holistic approach helps a student to be present to the academic, and the results, like I said, are amazing. So moving on, we've also managed, we also got a chance to compare some of our academic success rates between Kenya as a whole and the scholars in our Freely in Hope community. And as you can see, like in Kenya, 20% of high school students, only 20% finish 4 years. But at Freely in Hope, 90% of our scholars graduate from high school. In Kenya, only 4% of high school graduates enroll in higher education. But at Freely in Hope, 78% of our graduates go to university, and it's the cream de la cream schools. And then in Kenya, only 40% of college graduates are, are employed. But at Freely in Hope, 100% of our graduates get to find employment in their field of study, which is a clear indication that this model is making a lot of impact. And I can tell you stories and stories about this model and how I've seen it working. But just to wrap it up, I am an actual product of this holistic model. Zivo, next slide, please. Once upon a time, I was this girl in Kibera, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. I had all these amazing ideas of how I wanted to transform my community. And yes, I had been through a lot of scholarship programs that only focused on developing, my academic muscle. But then I came across Freely in Hope, and I got to learn about leadership, and I got to become the woman that I am today. Right now I am managing programs at the same organization that took me to school. And I know you may be thinking, isn't this model super expensive, and if you're a small organization, where do you begin? My answer for you would be what we say at Metis: start small. 10 years ago, Freely in Hope was at the same exact point, listening to the audacious dreams of survivors and coming to the realization that, oh my goodness, paying fees isn't enough. Some of these girls, yes, we are paying fees, but they do not even have the transport money to get them to school. We are paying fees, but some of these girls are living in homes that are traumatizing. They can't study in such environments. And so Freely in Hope had to be intentional about how they were responding to the holistic needs of the survivors in our community. And it began with just one scholar, and over time, through garnering support and partnerships, the practice grew into becoming the organization's model, which is now trickling down through leaders like me, who are fortunate enough to experience this magic and are building equitable platforms for other girls to experience the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lydia. And being cognizant of time, Jeremiah Kutanya, next.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Jeremiah Kutanya, as you've been told. I am the founder and the executive director of Pastoralist Integrated Concerns Organization. This is a community-based organization founded in 2019. And we're operating in Magadi, Kajiado County. Just a small introduction of who I am in terms of my career. I'm an industrial chemist by profession, though I also have a background in project management. I'm very passionate about girls, child, community development, human rights, and education. So we operate in Magadi. You may ask, where is Magadi? Or when you talk of Magadi, what does it mean? Magadi is predominantly occupied by pastoralist communities, the Maasai, with a very deep-rooted culture. And as many communities from Africa or even Kenya, they are patriarchal communities. Women and girls are considered do not have any right for anything. And there's a very high rate of FGM of 78%. and very high rate of teen pregnancy is the rural setup, of course, with the inherent kind of characteristic of rural areas is water shortages that lead to poor hygiene or poor menstrual health, and then relatively high poverty rate as a result of its environmental nature. Next. Next. So West Pastoralist Integrated Concerns. This is a community-based organization formed by elites of Magadi, community members, and we serve the whole of Kajiado West Sub-County, but we are located specifically in Magadi, Kajiado County. The mission is to work to create a community, use community strategies, work with their best practices, best means sustainable, and make communities as key players of their development and innovations. The vision is to create a society that nurtures and promotes pastoralist communities, that is the women, the men, the youth, and the community at large, to form a sustainable community or other society that nurtures and promotes its values, and its innate potentials are also respected. So our intervention, or we call it the PICOS way, especially in transforming learning of girls. We have 6 pillars. One of the pillars is the curriculum. We use the TAL methodology. For those who may be aware, TAL is a methodology which means teaching at right level, that is applicable for grade 3 to grade 5. And then we use workbooks, some specific workbooks that have been approved by KIE from grade 6 to grade 8. We put them into remedial classes as a way of catching up. Remember, during the long holiday, as a result of COVID, learning was disrupted immensely. And because of the rural setup, we were not able to learn through the internet as it was proposed or through radios. So our children were sent home, and we had to look for a way of keeping learning going, as I'm going to talk about that later. But we specifically use the curriculum that involved the TAL methodology and the workbooks. And then the other one is the energized parental engagement for bargaining and empowerment. Learners or other children belongs to the parents, and we cannot just wake up one day and decide to engage learners without the consent of the parents. Remember also, during the holidays, parents relieve those people who look after their livestock because they have a free, in quotes, a free labor, which are their children. So we really need to bargain with them the time. Then the other pillar is the teachers training on foundational skills and numeracy. Because of various challenges of school accessibility, distance problem, lack of learning materials, most of the learners, most of the girls in particular, lag behind because of all these challenges. So we train teachers on foundational skills on both numeracy and literacy. The other pillar, which is the fourth one, is improve school leadership and governance. We train board of management leaders on good leadership skills. The other one is youth advocacy for education. Being a patriarchal community, the morans, or rather the male gender, are preferred as the best gender. So, and the boys tend to be favored. So we mobilize these boys, we call them morans, to advocate for the children's rights and also the rights of the girls. And we do so through some sort of festivals, we call them Moran festivals, for them to now take a part in advocating for the rights of their sisters or their relatives. Finally, the involvement of the local leadership, the political, the administration, the chiefs, and all the leaders, representatives of different quarters, as a way of building or banking support for, for the advocacy for children's rights. That is the pick of girls. Yeah, I mentioned there before that we have, during the long holiday, we introduced what we call Manyata-based learning, which is a home-based learning program that we organize at our Manyatas. Manyatas are Maasai homesteads. We organize so that we facilitate this sort of learning to continue beyond school closure. So this home-based learning is facilitated by youth from the community, and they are youth who are trained as teachers, and we still train them on the TALC methodology. The objectives of this home-based learning, or we call it Manyata-based learning, one is for the safety and the security of girls. We keep the girls at watch all the time. Secondly is to continue learning even when the schools are closed. And then also the caregivers engagement. We engage the parents to take part in this, because remember, this learning takes part at home. So they feel also engaged. And then also the youth involvement is facilitated by the youth. And yeah, and finally, to make learning fun. You know, you're doing it at the comfort of your home. So that was the objectives of this Manyata-based learning. And it has worked very well. The assessment proved that if we engage parents, if youth volunteers participate in supporting education, that will be a great, it will result to a great improvement in learning. Next. Next slide. So just to say briefly what TALC methodology and in the advanced context of PICO is the energized parental engagement. Then the remedial classes for the week, quote unquote week, those who lag behind. We also provide learning materials. And finally, we train teachers on as an in-service training on foundational skills. This is all to contribute to quality education and attainment of learners' full potential in education. Yeah, as you can see, we are giving out some learning materials in our target schools. So far, we are able to provide over 200 reference materials to the target schools. Next slide, please. Just learning materials provided. So just a little bit on menstrual health, we also provide, we mobilize resources to provide sanitary pads. As I mentioned, there's a lot of scarcity of water in what we do or in areas we operate. So we provide sanitary pads. Just to say something, girls' education is the greatest investment in our community. That is something we've already seen in most of the, focusing on a girl requires a holistic or a multi-stakeholder approach. Then some cultural norms, traditional practices are harmful to the girl, like FGM, and that is why we are at the forefront against the cultural practices like FGM. Next. Thank you very much. Feel free to contact us or to support our work. That is our, yeah, that is our conduct. Those are our contacts, and we appreciate your collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah. Grateful to all our panelists today, and being cognizant of time, I would like to bring this to an end. I hope we have learned a lot from our panelists. We'll reach out to you with shared resources with an upcoming email from Metis and Girl Rising. From Girl Rising, we also invite you to the International Day of the Girl to be celebrated on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of October at different times across geographies. We also invite you, if you're interested, to join our FB, Facebook communities, all our socials, IG, you're most welcome. And in case anyone is interested in understanding the Girl Rising curriculum tools better, or would like to explore more collaborations, feel free to reach out to me, Deborah, at girlrising.org. We'll share all that in an email. Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us and attending our session. You're most welcome. Thank you so much, and have a good evening. Have a good day from wherever you are. Rebecca, you're there?
Thank you all.
Yes. Just a big thank you to everyone. Really engaging things, conversations happening in the chat. So we really look forward to continuing the conversation and stoking our shared commitment to live in a world where everyone of all genders has the holistic support they need to thrive. And I think that, yeah, it's just a pleasure, you know, as our Metis communities here. Debbie was a cohort 1 fellow, to have so many folks from this broad community working on education issues across you know, the country, be sharing their insights here. So we are really looking forward to future events and hope that you will all be in touch. Thank you again for sharing so generously of your knowledge and wisdom. I think we truly do move further together. So thank you, everyone.